Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and all you truth seekers out there. This is Project Truth Beam, where we shed light on the truth. Thank you so much for joining us. This video is going to be on the death of Judas, and we're going to pull out some very important lessons from this story of Judas. Now, the Bible does not contradict itself, and anywhere we might run into something that appears to be a contradiction, you have to do some deeper diving. And we are definitely going to encounter this in this video. But before we jump in, just make sure you share this out, hit the like button, subscribe, and please leave comments below. All right. So in Judas, so in Matthew 27, verse 5, it says, Then he threw down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed and went and hanged himself. This is the New King James Version. And we also read in Acts 1, verse 18. Now, this man, talking about Judas, purchased a field with the wages of iniquity. And falling headlong, he burst open in the middle, and all his entrails gushed out. And it came to known to all those dwelling in Jerusalem, so that the field is called in their own language Akel Dama, that is the field of blood. So let's point out two things here. One, you have one place where it says he hanged himself, and another place it says he's falling headlong. This is one action right here. He fell headlong forward and burst open in the middle, and all his entrails gushed out. This is one simultaneously action. Now, we can't have the Bible contradicting itself. That is an impossibility. We know that the Bible is all true. And anywhere we run into situations like this, we have to use our tools. What are our tools? Our tools are putting things in historical context, cultural context, linguistic context, and the Near East, the region, and we also have to look at our translation as well. And so what we find here in this particular story is it is not a contradiction. It is actually our modern minds taking over, where we're envisioning him hanging by a noose or a rope, when he actually did not hang from a noose or a rope. In ancient times, it meant to hang on a sword. And let's do some biblical references for this evidence. So First Chronicles 10, 3 through 5. This is Saul, King Saul, the one who was hunting down David, and this is at the end of Saul's life, and he's in battle. Verse 3. The battle became fierce against Saul. The archers hit him, and he was wounded by archers. Then Saul said to his arm bearer, Draw your sword and thrust me through with it, lest the uncircumcised men, that means the enemy, come and abuse me, means torture him. But his arm bearer would not, for he was greatly afraid. Therefore Saul took a sword and fell on it. And when his arm bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell on his sword and died. And you can also see this exact same story being told in 1 Samuel 31, verse 4 through 5. It is exactly the same. Saul is committing suicide by falling, by hanging on his own sword. And you also see this in Masada. The story accounts for people who were committing suicide by falling on swords. You also have, in ancient times, you have Roman military. When a soldier disobeys his commander and he's sentenced to death, to have an honorable death, he will fall or hang on his own sword. You can also see this in ancient times with With the samurais, the tradition of an honorable death was to fall on your sword, or slice your stomachs and then fall on your sword. And so this act of hanging on something, it's not a rope. In the ancient Near East, in ancient times, they did not have an accessible amount of rope. It was not an accessible suicidal accoutrement that would be them falling and using a rope. What they would do is they would have a dagger or a sword and they would fall on it. And that's why the uh, the story of how Judas committed suicide links up. You have to have both of those parts and the historical context for him hanging himself and his entrails gushing out and his middle bursting out or bursting open. So with those two verses put together, you get the full picture. He committed suicide by falling on his own sword. And so let that be a lesson when you come across things that don't make sense or is confusing. Why does it say this in this spot and this one over here? Sometimes you got to do more digging. Sometimes you have to remove your Western uh, modern day mind. There's a lot of stories in the Bible that if you view them with the lens of your modern mind, here with a Western culture or a Greek minded culture, it will not make sense. It will not fit in the story that is being told. So uh, that is a beautiful thing, and trying to seek out the truth and to find out what actually happened. And yeah, so thank you so much for joining me. I hope this has been a informative lesson for you. And please share this out. God bless you, everyone out there. Thank you.